Well, we've got a postscript today. Tom finally turned up. Good on you, Tom. Well done.
Afternoon, Dad.
Yeah, you're a bit late. Well, why don't we discuss a few economic issues? What's happening in Greece? Are they going to get a solution to this euro problem?
Well, apparently the Greek government and its various lenders, we're talking about banks and funds around the world, are locked in negotiations. Now, the hope was that something would be announced this morning. That hasn't happened. The rumour is that the deal that's going to be done, and this is really quite astonishing, is that lenders to the government will accept a haircut, that is a loss, of up to 70% on their investment. That is, they'll agree to only get paid 30% of what they lend.
Who are those lenders?
Oh,
they're major French banks.
Exactly, big French banks. What happens is the big banks take a massive haircut, their balance sheets are in disarray, their own governments have to bail them out.
Yep.
But politically it's easier for the French government to bail out French banks rather than give French taxpayers money directly to Greece.
I agree. I understand that.
It's the same merry-go-round.
So it's going to be the Germans and the French that are going to pay most of the cost.
And the Belgians and a few other people, but yes, and the Italians. So
if this happens, the next people to come up could be Italy, and that is a real problem.
Well, that's right. I mean, Greece is a big problem, but Greece is a small country. It's only around, I think, 10 million odd people. Italy, of course, is a very large country and has debts which are almost as bad, and of course they're much greater given the size of the economy. I think the hope is that if a deal is done with Greece, this will give everybody more confidence.
Yeah.
And the good thing has been, ever since S&P downgraded all the European nations just a week or so ago, the debt markets have continued to function normally. That is, they haven't been thrown into disarray. So I think people would see a solution, even if it was a massive haircut. It means that Europe is going to hang together, not fall apart, that the banks, while probably undercapitalised, will survive, and therefore the governments and economies attached to them will also survive. But I mean, it's a very high stakes game. And
well, it is, given what I said earlier. If you have another country, whether it be Spain, Portugal, Italy, if they go over, then you've got a real problem.
Look, some people say it's just like fingers in the dike. You know, you try and plug a few holes and hope that stops the whole thing falling over. No one really knows. But look, it will be good news if a deal is done, because the market, to be honest, has been pricing in sort of Armageddon, and hopefully Armageddon will be averted, at least for the time being. So we will see. It may well be in the next 24 hours something happens. The stock market this morning is just marking time. It's down about 9 or 10 points.
I see Toyota on the news this morning. You're going to sack a couple hundred people.
Could be as many as 400, and of course that's here in Melbourne where you and I live. Look, there's been a lot of focus in the last few weeks on General Motors and Ford. The former industry minister Kim Carr flew to Detroit to meet with the...
Not the former, he is the minister.
No, he's now the former industry minister.
Oh, is he?
Greg Combay is now the minister.
Oh, is he?
Kim Carr's the minister for something else, but he'd already agreed to do this trip before he got demoted in the cabinet reshuffle. Anyway, he should be the industry minister because his name's Kim Carr and he spends most of his time worrying about the car industry. Yeah. Some people say he should be called Kim Il-Kar because he's a bit of an old-fashioned communist and might do well in a place like North Korea. Anyway, he wants to tip hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money to convince Ford, General Motors Holden and Toyota to keep making cars here. The reality is, of course, these companies are both businesses and they are foreign-owned businesses, and I guess there's a big issue there as to whether Australian taxpayer dollars should essentially be given to foreign-owned corporations just to keep them manufacturing cars here.
You know, we did talk about this on 3AW the other day, that the rates now to employ people in the car industry in Korea, South Korea, are about the same as Australia. So I think as China and these other countries lift their labour rates, Australia will cease to be as uncompetitive as we are now, and more of the work in the car industry is being done by robots. So I'm actually a bit more confident that give it 3, 4, 5 years, the car industry ought to be kept for that long to see if we can become economic again, because it's really the cheap labour costs that kill us.
Well, but that is the issue. We've got to get through 3, 4 or 5 years, and leaving labour rates aside, the Australian dollar at 104.7 US cents.
Makes it very difficult.
83 euro cents, 68p. I mean, that is. I mean, I remember it was
going overseas. Going to be very cheap this year.
It's very cheap. I'm just planning a holiday as we speak. So I mean, look, I think the industry will get through the next few years. I spoke to a former executive of General Motors Holden over the weekend. He said, look, they'll still be here in 5 years. 10 years is another question. All Ford and Holden are doing, we don't know about Toyota, all they're committed to do is simply to build the next generation of their respective cars here. Beyond that, all the cars are, well, we don't know what's on the table anymore. So, but look, fundamentally though, that customers have got to want to go and buy these cars.
Yes, that's right. Okay, that's it. We'll see you all next week.